everyone. Thank you for joining Career Innovations Job Seeker Q&A session. Again, if this is your first time joining us, we're using a GoToWebinar platform. You can ask questions one of two ways. You can either raise your hand, I can unmute your mic, and you can verbally ask your question, or you can type your question in the chat box below. If you dialed in using a touch-tone phone, you have the option to enter our audio pin. If you utilize that option, that will allow you to verbally ask your question. Just keep in mind, since we are covering a lot of material, we'll open up the lines and address questions following the workshop. The questions that are in the slides are questions that were sent prior to the workshop. If you are not aware, when you register, you're able to ask a question through your registration. So you're able to send your questions prior to the workshop. That way we can get them on the slides. We actually prefer you do it that way so we can give a little bit more thought into answering your question, because some questions may require research. If you're not familiar with Career Innovations, let me go ahead and give you a brief overview of who we are. This is about a 37 introduction about myself. I'm Bridget Baggett, the founder of Career Innovations. We are an executive search firm. We actually launched in 2007. We're a referral-based firm, which we pride ourselves in our innovative technology and tools to locate the best talent. And we usually like to find talent through referrals. We also want to be able to give research to our candidates that we're unable to help. So if we have candidates that we're unable to help for any way, shape, or form, we may not have a position that we can place them in. That's why we actually offer these workshops, because we still want to be able to give them the tools to go out there and find a position either with us or without us. I am the Director of Staffing and Recruiting of Career Innovations. I do pride myself as an innovator. We do find unconventional and innovative ways to find top talent. One of my true passions is organizational change. I truly believe the foundation of a company's culture starts with the values. It's the foundation of attracting and retaining top talent. I like to start off the session with a quote. One of the quotes that I did start out with is our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to fail is to quit. So I know that there may be a lot of people out here or that are on the line that, may be close to quitting or giving up, and I'm here to tell you that's not the answer. You have to push forward, and I'm going to give you some ways to do that. Let's take a look at the questions that we'll be answering today. Question 1. Should I tell a recruiter or HR manager my current salary? Why or why not? Question 2. Why do employers avoid hiring job seekers who have been out of work for a while? Question 3. What are some red flags that disqualifies a candidate in an interview? And question 4. How to network without coming off as desperate. So I'm going to address these 4 questions. If you have any others, you can go ahead and start to type those, and I'll get those towards the end of the session. What is your current salary? And that was the first question. Should I tell a recruiter or HR manager my current salary? Why or why not? As you can see, my first response to that is be honest. We actually want you, and we actually want to pay you well. At the end of the day, we have no vested interest on lowballing you as a recruiter. We do not want to see you not succeed. There's no valid reason why a recruiter would want to snub someone on a salary. There's no added benefit for that. In the long run, that comes back to bite the actual employer in the butt, because, then you have retention. Then you have candidates looking for positions elsewhere because of their low compensation or because they're not getting fair market value. So to be totally honest with you, you want to definitely be upfront and honest about your salary. So should you tell them? If the question arises, I would. The reason why is because there's 4 general scenarios that can happen. Either you're talking to a candidate as a recruiter, or either I'm talking to a candidate that, is holding a current job that they're happy with and they're happy with their current compensation. Or I'm talking with a candidate that, is holding a current job but they're unhappy with their compensation. But you also do have candidates that are unhappy with their job but are happy with their compensation. There's some people out there that say, hey, I love what I'm getting paid, but I just don't like this line of work. And that's when you have your individuals that look into making a career transition. It's not so much they're not getting paid fairly, they may not be in the type of career or the line of work they want to be in. And you also have people that are unhappy with both. They're either unhappy with their job and they're unhappy with their compensation. So those are 4 type of scenarios that you can run into. And you want to really figure that out when you're talking to a candidate. And also, the reason why you want to figure this out, because you don't want to waste each other's time. If I'm recruiting for a particular position and they have a set scale or a set ballpark on what they're paying, and you're withholding, your salary, you may be above what the client is looking to pay. So if I find out that, hey, this position is only going to pay anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000, 60 on the low end, 80 on the high end, and you're making 110, at the end of the day, we're wasting each other's time. I can see them having wiggle room, but are they going to have a $30,000 wiggle room? Probably not. And are you willing to take a $30,000 pay cut? Probably not. So that's when knowing your compensation is going to be very important, because I'm not going to waste your time putting you through the recruiting process for a position that clearly is something that you're not going to take if an offer was made. So that's another reason why you want to be very upfront with that, because you don't want to waste the recruiter's time, and the recruiter definitely does not want to waste your time. Next thing you want to do when you do report your salary and they are telling you, hey, this is the range for this particular job, it's 60 to 80 grand, you want to do your own research. Is that a fair market rate? Are they offering a competitive salary? That's something that you have to research. The company is not going to tell you, hey, we're offering you a salary $10,000 to $20,000 lower than what the market is. They're not going to come off and tell you that. If you haven't done your research, you don't know what the market may be offering in your particular location. And that's the thing, when you do your research, you have to take into account that what someone's paid here may be different from what someone paid somewhere else. So make sure that when you're looking up the salary, you're not just looking it up by title. You're having the option to break it down in a demographic way, so you can figure out that in this particular location or zip code or city, this is how much this particular title is getting paid. Because of course we all know someone that's getting paid a certain salary in Georgia clearly may be making less than someone that's getting paid in California with that exact same title. Of course, because we have the cost of living to factor in. So you want to do your own research. Don't expect the employer to hold your hand and spoon feed you. If they do try to lowball you, that's no one's fault but your own. You need to find out what the fair market rate is and compare that to what you're currently making, and compare that to what the employer's asking or actually is trying to offer you. So that's something that you have to take a look at. And at the end of the day, everything is negotiable. And this is something that I've learned by running my own firm. It's taught me that everything is negotiable. If you don't have much to truly work with, what have you lost? And I've learned that this particular quote is the law with money. When you undervalue what you do, the world will undervalue who you are. So if you already are walking in with the mindset that this is how much I'm worth, this is how much I quote unquote been making, that's exactly what the employer is going to offer you. They're going to go with the status quo. This is how much you make. This is how much you've given off. You've given off this persona that this is how much you're worth. Guess what? This is all that we're going to pay you. And a lot of people don't understand why some people come in and they don't like people talking about each other's salary, but I've seen people come in the exact same position, exact same title, and one person may be making $20,000 to $30,000 more. They're not doing any more work than the other person, but that person valued themselves a little bit more. They actually were able to sell a particular solution and show the value in paying them that $30,000 more. And they delivered, and that's what they got. So that's one quote that I do look at when I do look at money. When you undervalue what you do, the world will undervalue who you are. So you need to take that into action. You know, people who expect more get more. It's that simple. And how simple it is, many people make it more complicated than it needs to be. So if you really know and you can prove that, hey, I'm worth this extra money, everything's negotiable. And I've seen it being made and seen it being done. If you can prove that you can bring value to an organization, they don't mind paying you more. But the kicker is doing your research and being able to show that value. If you can't do that, you're going to fall right in that market rate, and you're going to fall right where that status quo sits. And that's something that you're going to have to be able to figure out, how do I get out of? So that's something when an employer asks your salary, the 3 things I do ask people to do is, of course, just to recap, is to be honest with it. You want to actually They want to actually pay you well, and you want to be paid fair, but that also, again, put the ball in your court and do your research, because, again, an employer is not going to tell you that, hey, we're paying below market value or market rate. They're not going to tell you that. So that's something that you're going to have to research. And at the end of the day, everything's negotiable. And we're not only talking about salary. I've been in deals where vacation was negotiable. Hey, they couldn't give them that extra $10,000 or $20,000, so they gave them an extra week of vacation. I've seen that tuition reimbursement has been negotiable. So everything at some point is negotiable. So that's something that you need to also bring to the table. Other than the dollar figure, look at the entire package as a whole. If they can't have wiggle room with the particular numbers, what can they have wiggle room with? Is it the benefit package? Maybe, like I said, it may be tuition reimbursement. Maybe they'll pay for you to go back to school. Hey, maybe it's vacation time. So these are other things that you can look at besides the total dollar figure. So that's something that you want to look at moving forward as well. The next question was, why do employers avoid hiring job seekers that have been out of work for a while? And these were my 4 reasons. Or I should say, this is what I see out there. And again, you may ask someone this same question, they may give you a totally different answer, and it still will be right. So, you know, this question, again, is very subjective to who you ask. First things first, you know, is perception. Unfortunately, this scenario has been around for a while. You know, you're a job seeker, you may have been out of work for a while, and you may feel, okay, why am I still unemployed? I've been applying to so many jobs, I'm not getting a response back. You know, is it because I'm unemployed? Or maybe it's, you know, you may have gaps on your resume. Unfortunately, as I said, what you see or believe is your reality, and that's the perception of the employer. They may see someone that's gainfully employed in some aspects better than someone that has not been working for over 2 years. Not to say that statement is true. Again, it boils down to perception. This is what I perceive to be true. Not to say that there's any evidence that supports that. It's just what you believe. And it's many things that we have our own perception about, that we just go with the flow because that's just something that we believe. And this may be one of them for the HR manager. Not to say that someone that's unemployed is better or less better than someone that is not or is gainfully employed. The next one is a risk factor that may be involved that employers look at. A gap or blemish on a candidate's resume may be viewed as a higher risk. And behind the scenes, let me tell you about the risks that are involved. Some employers may look at if this person's been out of work for a lengthy amount of time, and we're not talking about, you know, you were out of work for a couple months. I left my job in July, and I'm looking for a job by, August, September. We're not talking about a 2 or 3 month gap. We're talking about someone that may have been out of work for a year, 2 years, going on to 3 years. This may look at, okay, if I take the risk to hire this person, do I have to put in the resources to train them? Do I have to get them up to speed to the things that may have changed in this industry since? Let's face it, if we're in 2015 now, they may have been out of work since 2011, 2012. So a lot of things have changed in a particular industry in that amount of time. Different software has changed. Programs have changed. The way business has been conducted has changed within a 2 or 3 year period. So do I have to use resources to get this person up to speed? And if I do, how long is it going to take? That's when the time factor comes into play. Is this a position that's urgent? Do I need someone that can hit the ground running immediately? If so, how can I get someone that's been out of work 2 or 3 years up to speed? So that's something that employers look at as well, the risk that may be involved in hiring someone that may have been out of work for a long time. And most of the time it may be a financial risk. It may be costly for them. They may see that they have to invest, like I said, training dollars into that person, So that's something that, again, not to say this is true, but these are some of the things that I've seen when I've worked with clients. Another one may be options. Keep in mind, gainfully employed candidates are looking too. Just because they have a job doesn't mean that they're not going after the same positions that you're applying for. So you also have to keep that in mind. So if employers have options, I have the option to hire someone that's currently working, not only currently working, but either working in the field that I'm hiring for, doing exactly what I'm hiring for. They have the exact title, or this would be either a lateral move or upward move, or better yet, they're working for one of our competitors. That's a gold mine right there. I have that option, or I have an option to have someone that, may have been out of work a year or two, may have a couple gaps on their resume. I may have to invest into training. I may have to invest time and resources in this person. Without being biased and to take you out of your own situation and putting your consultant hat on, who would you select? Most people are going to select that person that's currently employed, currently doing exactly what they're hiring to do. In some cases, it's a no-brainer. That's where the unemployed may have a disadvantage, because you have quote-unquote competition out there with people that are gainfully employed looking for those same jobs. So that's another reason why being unemployed may not be a good look when you're looking for a job. And that's why people say, don't leave your job until you have another one. That they're not saying that just to say it. They know that that's what employers look at. They want someone that's currently employed. Next one is a non-existent network. People hire who they trust, respect, and admire. They're looking for some type of commonalities within their network. And what I mean by that, not having a non-existent network, because once again, there are people out there that have been unemployed for a year or two that are gainfully employed now, that, landed a job. How did they do that? I've seen a lot of people landed a job through their network, landed a job through someone that they knew that knew someone that worked for the particular company. Their network went a long way. I know people that have been out of position that didn't even have to go through the hiring process as far as filling out an application, other than for the formalities of it, but they just knew someone in the company that said, hey, let's have an interview. Are you available to talk, Wednesday at 3 o'clock? So you want to make sure that you have some type of network that's tapping into the people or the companies that you're trying to work for. So not having the network, not being able to rub elbows with some of these decision makers also can be a disadvantage for the unemployed, because a lot of people nowadays are getting their jobs through referrals or getting their jobs through people they know that work for these organizations. How are you tapping into that network? How are you tapping into these organizations that are hiring other than applying online? That's something that you have to ask yourself as well. Next question was, what are some of the biggest red flags in an interviewee? So I guess they're asking for what are some things that turn the employers off when they're interviewing. And this not only goes for a face-to-face interview, this can go for a phone screening, an informal phone interview. So it doesn't have to be a standard, come on in and we're going to have a face-to-face. Some of the biggest red flags that I see is that there's a lack of truthfulness. There's dishonesty. This is something that many people think, well, a lie is a lie is a lie. And that's true. So when we're talking about dishonesty, we're talking about someone that may not have been very truthful on their resume. And this is any kind of lie that you may have seen, that someone may have exaggerated their experiences, they may have exaggerated their job title. Anything of that nature can prove to be a dishonesty. Also a lack of confidence. If you're not able to tell me the most current events in your field, and you're not able to show me that you know exactly what you're doing, or you know what the industry is about, and you're confident in the execution of any type of solutions that come your way or set before you, that's also a lack of confidence. And if you can't show me that you believe enough that you can do the job, why should I hire you? And there are a lot of people that when they interview, they're not able to express that can-do attitude, and that can be something that's holding them back. I have to believe that you can do what you say you can do. I have to believe that you can do the job that I posted. And if you can't sell that to me, why should I hire you? Because it comes across that you don't even believe that you can do it. And if you don't even believe that you should do it, or you can do it, why should I hire you to do the job and expect me to believe that you can do it? So that's where the lack of confidence comes in. The next is value. What's in it for me? And a lot of employers are looking at that now. What's in it for me? What am I going to gain from this relationship? What am I going to gain for putting you on the payroll? So when you look at what's in it for me, you're looking at the value that you're bringing to the organization. And many people don't understand that this is a red flag when you can't go into an interview and pitch what solution you can bring to the organization. In order to pitch a solution, you have to do your research. You have to know where that company's pain is. What are they trying to solve with this particular job opening? Do you know that? They're not having a job opening just for the sake of having a job opening. There's a pain there. Something needs to be resolved. And if you can't express that value, you can't express that solution in the interview, that is a red flag. That's something that if you can't tell me how you're going to do the job, how you're going to solve our pain, why should I hire you? Compared to someone that can prove or show that they've either done this in the past, they implemented something that worked, they have people that can vouch for it, and they can replicate that particular solution. And if you can't show me that, again, why should I hire you? It's going back to how the economy is now working. People are getting tight on funds. They don't have money now just to, fill a position and give someone a warm seat and a warm body to fill a seat nowadays. And they're looking for someone that's going to be able to bring their organization value. How are you going to bring them to the next level? Another red flag is a lack of genuine interest. And a lot of times you can see this when someone, and I call it burnout, and it usually wears on someone that's been unemployed for a while. They've applied to many positions. They feel defeated. Their mind is already made up that they're not going to get the job, and they're just going through the motions. And you really can hear that in the interview when someone interviews, and it feels like they're not genuinely interested in the position. And not to say that they're not, but they just have come feeling so defeated that they can't even express anything more than, I'm here, I showed up, you know, give me the job. And unfortunately, the employer does not know that this is your 350th job that you applied to. You know that. The employer does not know that. They only go by what they see. So if you cannot come with a genuine interest, and a genuine interest also includes asking questions. And asking questions more than around compensation, because that's most of the questions that you get, you know, either the compensation structure, either something about vacation, anything about any type of benefits, really not about the job. So when you want to, if you want to build a genuine interest, my recommendation to you is to ask questions about where you see yourself either in that organization or in that department in the next 5 years. Something that's going to pick their brain, something that's more than a standard yes or no answer. You know, if you can ask the actual employer, where will this job take me in the next 5 years? Where do you see this person that takes this role in the next 3 years? You can ask something that's going to pick their brain. That's going to show genuine interest. And you see a lot of people walk away from an interview and do not take advantage of asking questions. That also can come off as, you know, I'm one of many. You're one of many I'm interviewing with. And that may not be the case. This may be the only interview you had in the last 6 months. But you're not acting like it. You want to make sure that you're putting in some type of genuine interest in the particular role. And that goes back to value as well, because once you can open up those can of worms and get them talking about the day in the life of this particular role, you're building value, but you're also picking where the pain is. Because once you can hear them talk about this is what you'll be doing, these are the group of people that you'll be working with, this is the type of process that we're using, more likely they will also talk about some of the things that are wrong with that process. Hey, we need to do this, or we're looking to change this, or we're looking to introduce this. That's where you can start to build your solution. And I've seen people build off of that. You know, hey, I've done this at my last job. This is what we did. And they're able to offer some type of value in the interview. So that's something that you have to do as well. So these are some of the red flags that I see in interviews, and this can also come across as a red flag. Again, being straight up dishonest, exaggerating any of your roles. And again, it all comes out. Like they said, it all comes out in the light. So if you're dishonest about that, that's something that can come up that bites you. Lack of confidence, and that goes back to, if you don't believe, you know, why should I believe? If you're coming into this role and you cannot confidently tell me what you've done and how you've executed a role, you know, why should I believe you can do it if you don't believe you can do it? So the lack of confidence is one, being able to bring value and having a genuine interest. So those are some of the 4 top red flags that I see when people do interview with employers. The last question was, after you talk to an employer, how to network wisely, or how to network without coming off as desperate. Well, any type of event when you network, and that's the first thing I put up there, is network wisely. Hopefully you're taking advantage of events that are pushing you closer to your goal. Hopefully you're taking advantage of events that are going to some way align you with the decision maker in a or align you with an opportunity in an organization, and including the decision maker in an organization that can get you either an interview or get you a foot in the door. So the first thing, you want to have some type of current events going on. So if you already know that you're attending an event that the HR manager is going to be at, or in your case, or in someone's case, that the operations manager, you know that direct hiring manager, or your direct report, you know, it's not, of course, always the HR manager. You know, within organizations, you may have you know, if you are applying for an operations position, the director of operations would be your direct manager. So if you're networking with events, and this is specifically true with associations, or any type of association or industry related organization that you're a part of, they sometimes have mixers where you actually can network with some of these executives. You want to make sure that you're current with their events that are going on within the organization, which I mean is have current events on what's going on. That's going to be your icebreaker. So if you're able to talk about something that's currently going on with their organization, that means staying up to date with their newsletters, staying up to date with their press releases, knowing what's going on with their organization. That's going to be a great icebreaker. You're not going to come off as desperate. You're going to come off as someone that's knowledgeable. So if someone comes to me and tells me about my organization, I'm going to be impressed, because that lets me know, oh, you're following what I'm doing. You're following what we're doing as a whole. You have a little insight on the staffing and recruiting world. Next, and that also takes in place with doing your research, and also with any type of networking relationship, as far as professional or personal, you always want to figure out what can you give. That's the worst type of relationship to be in, is a selfish relationship. And I don't know if we have anyone on the phone that's ever been in a relationship where you've been friends or been acquaintance of a taker. And everybody know what a taker is. The person, you know if they ring on your phone. If you're on the line right now, or if you've had a phone call where you saw that person's name pop on the phone, and the first thing that comes through your mind is, oh, what do they want? You're in a relationship with a taker, because you already know they're calling you because they want something. You don't want to turn into that person that you're only reaching out to people when you want something. You don't want to turn into that guy. So you always want to think about, what can I give? What can you give to this relationship? When you're out networking, what can you do to help them? Because once you help them, I can guarantee you they're going to want to return that gesture. And I know people before that have given me things, and I almost feel obligated to do something in return. Oh man, what can I do? Oh, thank you so much. What can I do to help you? That's the psychology of giving. When you give someone something that wasn't expected, you've almost put them in a position of obligation. So you want to find out, what can you give? Because when you give, you also want to know, what can you expect in return? So when you start to build these relationships with these decision makers, that's something that you want to keep in the back of your mind. What can you offer in this relationship? Can it be time? Maybe you have a contact or a lead. I've had people that, they may not have had a position for me. This is back when I was out in the corporate world. They may not have an opening for me, but they may be hiring for another position that I could refer them someone. Hey, I see that you have a marketing manager position posted. You know what? I have 2 people in my network that are currently looking, and they are marketing managers as we speak. Could I make an introduction for you? It's definitely what, lighten your load if I can put you in touch with someone that's already doing what you're looking to hire for. A lead, that can be something that you give. An article of interest can be something that you give. Giving them insight on a particular market can be something that you give. And also, what are you expecting? Are you expecting a 5-10 minute conversation with them? Doesn't have to be a formal interview. It can be an informational interview. 10 minutes of their time. And then you want to always walk away with some type of date set. Doesn't have to be in stone, but after you've exchanged contact information, you should have something set on when you're going to reach out to each other. And that's something that we miss in networking opportunities. Networking events have now become a business card collection plate. That you just go out there and collect business cards, and with no intentions or no plans to reach out to these people that you collect business cards with. And I'm telling you this from experience, because I've been guilty of it. I've been, before I started this firm, I've actually went out and collect business cards, and they sat in a box. I didn't reach out to them. I didn't have a plan on what the next step was. I went out and networked, and you know, just collected a whole lot of business cards. Nothing came of it. And that's when it goes back to networking wisely. So once you get that business card, once you get that email, that phone number, whatever the case may be, what's the next step? What's your plan of action? Set a date. When's a great time for us to get together? When's a great time for us to talk? This way you're not coming off as desperate, because that was the last thing you kind of close the conversation with, setting a date or setting a time that you can contact this person. And you're not walking away feeling as if you're desperate, or you feel that you went to them for something. You're actually leaving that networking event feeling empowered. And that's how you want to feel. And they're going to leave the networking event feeling that they met a great contact. They're not going to feel as if, oh, I met someone that wants something from me. So you don't want to become that person, and you want to put some type of plan of action in place when you do get out there and network with these individuals, and you are looking to give something, and you have some type of plan of action on what you want to expect in return. That's the only way you can have a great, fulfilling professional relationship. Okay, and I think that was our last question, and this is my contact information. You can reach out to me via phone. My extension is 101. The best way to contact with me is actually go online and book a phone appointment. If you want to verbally speak with me, I'm really not sitting at my desk around the office. I'm usually out and about. We are offering 25% off for writing services. If you have a resume, cover letter, a portfolio, or anything that you're looking to get redone, we are offering that. In exchange, we do like to have you write a recommendation after we finish your work to tell us, what things that you liked about our services at all. We also do this with our Q&A sessions. You get 25% off for writing a recommendation on our Q&A sessions as well. At the end of this workshop, there is a survey. If you could take the survey, it's only anywhere from 8 to 10 questions, multiple choice. Some are that you actually type in your answer. But just let us know, what are some things that you liked about the Q&A session, things that you'd like to change? Would you attend again? So that's something that we like to look at in the feedback that we like to get, so we know how to better or best. This is the time that we open up the lines. If you have any questions, definitely type them below. That way we can answer them. These were the questions that were submitted prior to the workshop that we covered. Again, if you do want to attend another session, make sure you get those questions to us at least 24 hours before the session. That way we can add them on the slides. So if there's any questions, definitely raise your hand, or and I can unmute your mic, or type your questions below, and that way I can answer them that way as well. Okay, I see a lot of thank yous. You're welcome. I have someone, thank you. I'm glad I was able to answer your question perfectly. Okay, I don't see any questions tonight additional to what I have on the slides. If you have a question that you don't want to ask right now, or you can think of it later, here's my email. Definitely shoot me an email. Other than that, we have about it looks like we're going to log off about 10-15 minutes early. We do this again every Monday from 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing everyone again next week, where if you know someone that's in the process of making a transition or looking for career advice, definitely send them the link so they can log on to this as well. And hopefully we'll see you again, and good luck on your career search. Thank you, and have a good night.